Have you ever had that feeling deep down that you were meant for something more than what everyone else expects of you? Well, that's exactly the question at the heart of Richard Bach's Jonathan Livingston Seagull. It's this beautiful, profound allegory all about self-discovery, pushing for personal excellence, and ultimately transcendence. It uses the story of this one really unique seagull to explore our own human quest for knowledge, for freedom, and for enlightenment.
So here's the flight path we're going to take for this explainer. We'll start with Jonathan's rebellious awakening, then follow him on his journey to a higher plane and see what happens when he returns as a teacher. After that, we'll really dig into the core philosophical themes, and we'll wrap it all up with what this incredible story can teach us about our own lives.
All right, let's dive right into the story. We meet Jonathan Livingston Seagull, and right away you can tell he is just different from every other gull in his flock. For them, flying is just a utility, right? It's about getting from the shore to the food and back again. But for Jonathan, oh no. For him, flying is everything. It's an art, it's a science, it's his path to figuring out who he is. He is just obsessed with practicing these super intricate aerial maneuvers, constantly trying to go faster and be more precise. And pretty quickly, he realizes he can do things no other gull has ever even dreamed of.
And this isn't just in his head. He starts pulling off the impossible. Just by making these tiny little adjustments to his wings, he completely shatters their speed barriers, hitting over 200 miles per hour. He masters these incredible dives, these sharp turns, and he learns to skim the water with just flawless precision. Now for him, this isn't about showing off. It's a genuine discovery that he thinks could change everything for all seagulls, proving that flight could be a gateway to a much higher understanding of life.
But as you can probably guess, this kind of thinking, it's not exactly welcomed. The flock, led by the elder gull, sees his passion as a total violation of their way of life, of their traditions. They basically accuse him of wasting his time on meaningless endeavors, and because he just refuses to stop to conform, he's ultimately exiled, cast out. And this exile, which was meant to be this horrible punishment, actually leads to his most powerful realization. He's sad for sure, but he embraces the solitude and just keeps on perfecting his skills. It's here that he understands that real freedom isn't about being accepted by the group. It comes from inside you. It's a huge paradox, right? The very thing that was meant to break him is what sets him truly free. So, he's free. But where does he go from here? Well, his journey is about to take a turn for the truly transcendent. This brings us to part 2, the higher plane. So after pushing his own limits all alone, something incredible happens. One evening, these two radiant, literally shining gulls just appear, and they invite him to ascend with them to a higher plane of existence. So he follows, and he finds himself in this new world where flying isn't about survival at all, it's about pure joy. And it's here that he meets Chang, this wise old gull, who teaches him that true mastery isn't just physical, it's about understanding the limitless nature of existence itself. Get this, Chang introduces him to instantaneous travel, the idea that you can move beyond space and time just by knowing that you're already there. And this is really the core spiritual lesson of the whole story. Jonathan learns that perfection isn't really about what you can do. It's about realizing your own infinite potential. He starts to truly get it. Heaven isn't some destination you fly to. It's a state of being you can tap into, right here, right now. So what does he learn in this new reality? Well, his time there is completely transformative. He learns that the physical world we see is really just a reflection of our inner beliefs. Think about that for a second. What you believe is what you experience. He realizes that all limitations are self-imposed and that true freedom comes from moving beyond fear. Chiang teaches him that mastery isn't about more effort, it's about more awareness. It's about understanding that you are already capable of greatness. And this just fundamentally changes who he is. Jonathan no longer sees himself as just a seagull, a simple bird. He understands that he is a being of infinite potential, and his whole journey isn't about proving himself to anyone else. It's about realizing his own boundless nature. So, what do you do once you've had this kind of profound enlightenment? Do you just hang out in heaven forever? Well, for Jonathan, the answer was a clear no. And that brings us to part 3, the teacher's return. Yeah, despite his incredible new existence, Jonathan feels this powerful pull to go back and share what he's learned. So he descends back to Earth and he finds Fletcher, a young outcast who is just like he used to be. He becomes a mentor, teaching Fletcher and a whole group of other outcasts the secrets of flight and self-discovery. But here's the key. His goal isn't to start a new, separate flock. He actually encourages them to go back to their original flock, not to try and fit in, but to inspire change from the inside.
When you look at his journey, you can see this complete transformation. He goes from being an outcast to a seeker, then a student, and finally a teacher. His story is this amazing metaphor for personal growth and having the courage to defy what's considered normal. He ultimately learns that real leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about inspiring them to find their own incredible potential.
Okay, so let's zoom out from the story for a minute and really look at the big ideas this book is wrestling with. Because it's a really powerful allegory that touches on some profound themes for anyone who's ever looked for meaning beyond what society expects.
So the first huge theme is breaking free from tradition. Jonathan's entire journey is a metaphor for rejecting conformity, for challenging those beliefs that are just deeply ingrained. The flock represents any society that resists change, that clings to the old ways just because of fear. Jonathan's exile? That's the classic story of the innovator, the trailblazer who gets punished just for daring to be different.
And this brings us right to the second core theme, this idea of pursuing excellence for its own sake. Jonathan never settles for just good enough. He's driven to master his craft, not because he wants to be famous or get recognition, but simply for the pure sheer joy of growth and discovery.
The book also gets into several other really deep ideas. First, there's transcendence, this concept that heaven is a state of mind, not some physical place, which, echoes a lot of Eastern philosophies. Second, you've got the role of the mentor. Jonathan's journey from being the student to becoming the teacher really highlights this responsibility to share wisdom, not to hoard it. And finally, freedom. Above all else, this is a story about the freedom to chase your passions, to rise above your own limitations, and to discover who you truly are.
So how do we tie all of this together? Let's bring it all home with some final thoughts, which are really, when you think about it, an invitation to soar.
Richard Bach's Jonathan Livingston Seagull, it's so much more than just a story about a bird learning to fly. It really is an invitation for all of us to soar beyond conventional boundaries and to discover our own infinite potential. Through Jonathan's journey, the novel shares these invaluable lessons on courage, on wisdom, and on self-discovery, inspiring all of its readers to pursue their own version of transcendence.
And that really just leaves us with one last powerful question to think about. When you look at your own life, your own flock, so to speak, your own self-imposed limitations, what boundaries will you choose to fly beyond?